South Dakota Secretary of Agriculture Lentsch credits its family farm upbringing for his commitment to the state's agriculture industry and citizens. His work ethic and financial responsibility were instilled by his parents, who worked and saved in order to build a family farm in northeastern South Dakota. At the time of his appointment by Governor Dennis Daggard in April 2013, Lentsch was a financial advisor for farm and ranch families and also part owner of his family's cattle operation. He previously served as Director of Agricultural Development for the Dakota Department of Agriculture from 2011 to 2012. Lentsch graduated from South Dakota State University with a Bachelor of Science degree in agriculture and worked in the dairy manufacturing industry for several years after college. Please welcome to the podium South Dakota Secretary of Agriculture, Lentsch.
Well, welcome to the great state of South Dakota. We'll get that mic set here, right? My name's Lentsch. On behalf of Governor Dennis Daggard, what an honor it is to join you this evening from all across our great nation. And I tell you what, I don't know about you, but that gave me goosebumps. Let's give them one more round of applause. You know, gatherings like this, I also want to just take a moment. We gather from across our great country of the United States of America, and we do it freely. And there are people in this audience tonight that have all served in one way, shape, or form. I'm going to ask this question and ask a favor of you tonight. If you've ever worn the military uniform in service to our great country, would you please stand in the audience right now? If you've worn the uniform, please stand. Thank you. You know, I tell you what, when you think about our state, or you think about the states where you come from, it's because of the men and women that are still out there serving, those that have served, and those that we stand on the shoulders of the past that have given us this country that we call these United States of America. And it is truly an honor to celebrate and recognize our military men and women. But again, on behalf of Governor Dennis Daggard, welcome to the great state of South Dakota. And I have it with me tonight, a very special proclamation that I get to read into the record on his behalf. Whereas the National Association of County Agricultural Agents was established with a mission to enhance and sharpen the professional skills of the members to conduct educational extension programs, and whereas South Dakota understands the importance of agriculture production, and NACAA members have excelled in conducting extension programs for South Dakota producers, as well as producers nationwide, contributing to the ability of the United States to be a world leader in the production of food and fiber. And whereas the South Dakota Association of Agriculture Extension Professionals is truly honored to host the 100th NACAA Annual Meeting Professional Improvement Conference in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and showcase the state of South Dakota and South Dakota agricultural production. And whereas the state of South Dakota, the South Dakota State University, and South Dakota Extension extends a warm welcome to the over 1,100 members and guests from across the United States to South Dakota for professional improvement education and the celebration of 100 years of professional improvement. And whereas great appreciation truly needs to be conveyed for the impact that 100 years of NACAA professional improvement efforts have made on increased food and fiber production for the United States and worldwide. Now therefore I, Dennis Daggard, Governor of the state of South Dakota, do hereby proclaim July 12th through the 16th of 2015 as National Association of County Agricultural Agents Appreciation Days. Governor Daggard, South Dakota. Wow. Well, welcome. I tell you what, I'm hearing some young folks in the crowd tonight. Thank you for bringing them. You know, I think about where we're from, and I think about all of us are being products of our environments. You know, our family farms, whether you're from a family farm or ranch, or you're from an inner city area, I'm kind of a mix. You know, my dad, in the 1960s, when he came home as a paratrooper, you know, there wasn't a farm to come home to. And he had to make a living for 20 years as a blue-collar, skilled tradesman in Waterloo, Iowa. Anybody from Iowa? All right, we got a couple. Well, I'm a Black Hawk County baby by birth, and so, being a Waterloo kid, my dad always had a dream of getting back to South Dakota. And you know what? I learned some really important lessons in those early years. If you have a dream, you persevere, you make it a goal. And when at the end of my 6th grade year, we made the move to South Dakota, and I saw on the steps of our house, on the farmhouse that we had bought, after 20 years of savings, there was my grandfather welcoming us home to South Dakota. And you know what he said? I'll never forget it. He had fallen on tough times, like a lot of folks do in agriculture. And he says, "Welcome home, son," as he's looking at my father. He says, "I hope you're more successful than I was." Well, I'll tell you what, when you've got a father that's got a dream, and you have a grandfather that thinks that his dream was robbed, and you bring all that together and you're 12 years old, and you're hearing those words for the first time, it made me think about what I was going to experience. Well, over the course of these last 30 years, I have seen a family that came to our state who dug in and made it happen. And I tell you what, I couldn't be more proud to be the son of a skilled tradesman that worked for 20 years at John Deere in Waterloo. But I will also tell you, I would have never imagined as I was kneeling beside those dairy cows that someday I would have that opportunity to be advocating for agriculture, joining you in what you do across this great country of ours. When you think about the world, and you think about all of the changes that are happening, you almost have to start thinking about what is it that we're doing and why we have to do it. A couple of years ago, I had heard about a presentation. I went and saw it, and I'm going to share it with you tonight. If you think about the world as this apple, and you wonder why is it important what you do as a National Association of County Agricultural Agents, working on education, working with producers. Why is that important? Is it to help your neighbors be more successful, keep your rural communities thriving? All of that. But why is it? If you unwind the clock a little bit these last 60 years, you go back to a world population of just under 3 billion. And here we are today, we're already being told that we're cruising on sights to the year 2050 being 9.5 billion people. 9.5 billion people. That is a big number. And all the work that you're doing across this country is helping put food and fiber in a place and fueling our country, and it's pulling all of these pieces together, but not just these United States. Part of our national security, these men and women that just stood up, part of what they have done for us is to provide a foothold in our world. And as you think about the work that you do, I want you to be thinking about the patriotism that you do through your actions, because our national food security is international security. Our ability to produce food as a country is what gives us a foothold in this global world that we're in. But if you look at this apple, and I'll try not to do any harm to myself while I'm up here working on this, but if this was the world, and I had to spend a little time slicing it apart because I wanted to represent how much of this is water. How much of this apple do you think I would need to take away just to get rid of the water? How much? 3/4. I heard some 3/4 out there. So let's just do this. I've got 3/4 of an apple. I'm just going to put it right there. So now I'm left with 1/4. So I'm going to take this 1/4 and I'm going to cut it in half again. And when I'm looking at this half, I'm going to set this down as well. Because this half of this 1/4 represents the mountains. It represents the ice caps. It represents places that we can't get to. This last 1/8 of this apple, I'm going to slice it again. And this time I'm going to do it 4 more times. This is where it gets a little tricky. And the reason why I did it 4 more times is that this one represents everything that's too rocky. This is all that soil that's too cold or swampy to get into. And this one represents that which is not productive. You can't get to it. It won't do the work that you need to do. And here you are. 1/32. 1/32 of our world is in ag production. And when you think about this little slice of the apple, just from a figurative standpoint, why is it important? I just talked about 9.5 billion. That's going to happen in 2050. Our ability to produce has to be able to be maximized. So you see, agriculture's never stood still. The agriculture that my father knew growing up is different than the agriculture that I knew growing up. Just like the agriculture that my children or my friends or my children's friends and what they're going to experience. It's going to be different. But you know what? Our world needs to eat. Our country needs to have national security. Our ability to work across this great country and leverage our American farmer and rancher, whether they're a beginning producer, whether they're a local foods producer, whether they're an organic or conventional, grass-fed, whatever it is, at the table of opportunity in food production, you know it and I know it, there's room for us all. But you know what? Always remember this. Technology is not the enemy. Hunger is. Technology is not the enemy. Hunger is. And the work that you're doing to put us in a place where we can produce and continue to do what we're doing resourcefully, but also being very much aware of our social license to operate in agriculture, making sure that we're educating and informing others how we do what we do. That's very important. If I could leave you one message to take out across this great country of ours, is we need to make sure those that are the best and the brightest, and that's our neighbors, that's our friends and our family members, that's everybody that's touching agriculture, to make sure they're talking about what they do. Because you know what? That 2% of our country, and now less than that actually produces the food to the other 98%, we're getting further and further removed from where food comes from and how it happens. We need to make sure that we're educating and continuing to reach out to our consumers, because that informed consumer votes every week with their grocery dollar. And we need to make sure that we have the best tools available for the future of our states and the future of our country and the future of our world. But it's the innovation that we do right here that we cannot take for granted. And so thank you for all that you do in extension. Thank you for all that you do in agriculture education. Everything that you're doing, you're bringing the best ideas to this leadership development. This leadership development opportunity that you have, you bring your best ideas forward, but you only get out of it what you give, but also what you receive. Make sure you're invested in these couple of days here in South Dakota. You're going to see some great sights. You're going to meet some great people. And I have to tell you, the future is bright. And I want to thank you for all that you've done to bring us to this place in 2015 that we are as a country. But I'm also very excited about where we're going in agriculture and food production. The future is very bright. So with that, let me just pause and say, on behalf of Governor Dugard, I hope you enjoy your stay. I hope you have fun while you're here and you make reacquaintances with old friends and you make new friends. And for the children that are here, thank your parents for bringing you along, or your grandparents, because there's nothing better than a love of a father or a mother or a grandmother or a grandfather welcoming you along the ride of life's journey. And for my grandfather that said, I hope you're more successful than he was, Grandpa, I want to say thank you for giving us the life and the opportunity. You taught us perseverance. You taught us the values, just like all of you come from families that have the agricultural values that make up the fabric of this great country. And as we had a chill up our spine because of the national anthem, you ought to have a chill up your spine for being involved in one of our great industries in this country, and that's agriculture. So with that, have a great conference, and welcome to South Dakota. Good night.
Thank you, Secretary Lentsch. And I would say if this politics gig doesn't work out, we might have a pretty fine county agent here on stage. Although I get the feeling that